Coming up on this special episode of SCVTV's Community Corner, we hear from the American Red Cross on their ongoing wildfire emergency relief efforts and what you can do to help.
Natural disasters cause more than just physical damage. They take a mental toll too. We'll hear from the CEO of the Child and Family Center on the emotional impact.
Is your family wildfire ready? If you're not sure, stay tuned to learn crucial tips from the City of Santa Clarita's Emergency Operations Analyst.
Learn about the LA County Animal Care Foundation and how to safely evacuate your pets when disaster strikes.
And we head over to the Castaic Animal Care Center to hear how the Hughes fire forced the center to evacuate. Plus, we meet some furry friends still looking for their forever homes.
Stay tuned. SCVTV's Community Corner starts now. Welcome back, Santa Clarita Valley, to SCVTV's Community Corner. I'm Roger Wilcox, filling in for Dave Caldwell.
And I'm Carrie Lujan, and this show is all about you, Santa Clarita, the nonprofits, the schools, our local government, and the amazing people who make up our wonderful community. And we have a really special and really informative episode lined up for you today.
That's right, Carrie. This year started off on a devastating note for Southern California. Wildfires have ripped through our neighboring communities, scorching tens of thousands of acres and leaving many with nothing. Homes lost, businesses destroyed, and entire lives have been turned upside down. The road to recovery won't be easy, which is why it's so important to talk about the different available resources and how we can all be better prepared for wildfire emergencies.
Right, and we have such important information that we're going to talk about today, but before we get into that, I want to take a moment and really just thank the first responders for everything that they did. We work really closely with our local assistant fire chief for LA County Fire, Chief Springle, and our local sheriff's captain, Justin Diaz, and I know that from the moment the Palisades fire broke out on January 7th, they were there.
Yeah.
They were on the front lines.
Absolutely.
And in talking with Chief Springle, as a matter of fact, he was called to the Palisades fire on the 7th and then to the Eaton Fire. He worked 48 hours straight.
Yeah.
And when I saw him at the Hughes fire on January 28th, which is some 21 days later, he still had not had a day off.
Yep.
And when you talk about heroics, do you have that kind of stamina?
Not me, and that does seem to be a common theme amongst the emergency services that operate here in Santa Clarita, but at LA County at large as well.
Yeah, they were there just working around the clock, and our sheriff's deputies were there too. In fact, we're going to honor one of them at an upcoming council meeting because one of our deputies was on the scene in the Palisades, and he actually found a looter who was disguised as a firefighter.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of thing that they're dealing with. But I do want to talk about something special. Did you see the Grammys last week?
Absolutely. How can you not?
Oh, the very last scene, and it gave me chills, and it honestly almost brought me to tears to see all of the firefighters up there with our very own Chief Springle. And I think we have the picture of him with Beyonce because, he met Beyonce at the Grammys, which is incredible. And not that makes up for everything that he's been through. And we're going to have him on the show at some point because one of the things he said to me, and I'm sure he has so many stories about what it was like being basically at ground zero of this fire.
Yeah.
But one of the things he really said that stuck with me was, you should see the helpers. You should see the people who are reaching out, who want to donate, who were bringing meals to the firefighters, bringing much needed supplies to the people who lost everything. And I think those are the stories that we have to focus on during this time because it's heart-wrenching what those people went through.
And the recognition is more than well-deserved, and a lot of the interest in volunteering that you were talking about does come from Santa Clarita Valley specifically. So it is really exciting to see all of LA County kind of coming together and wanting to help each other.
You put that very well, Roger. And there are so many people who want to help, and this is what we're going to talk about today. With so many organizations out there, how can you be sure your donation is truly reaching those in need? And Roger, being our emergency operation analyst for the City of Santa Clarita, you are the perfect person to help us navigate this. There's so many charities, so many relief efforts popping up after a disaster. How can people tell if they're legit?
Well, the first thing you're going to want to do if you see those calls for volunteer services is you're going to want to check those organizations' websites, right? That's going to be the easiest way to determine whether or not they're actually doing supporting those volunteer efforts that you may have heard about. The other thing you can do is check with the local government in that area. Oftentimes, those agencies will partner with local government agencies to promote these opportunities, whether it's events or any other kind of volunteer services that they're going to want.
And I know you personally did that for the City of Santa
Yes, we did.
Clarita. And if people want that information, where can they go right here in Santa Clarita?
Well, right now, the information is actually live on our Santa Clarita emergency blog that can be found at santaclaritaemergency.com. There's actually a tab specifically for donation resources. And like I said, you can check there to verify. But if there's other organizations that you've heard about that might be doing things locally, we would obviously encourage you to let us know about it so we can verify, but then also contact them directly to get more information.
And I think it's probably the same thing with all scams that you see. Like if somebody reaches out to you directly, like if you get a random text, like maybe don't just send them money, take the time to vet, right?
Absolutely. And any kind of urgency going on with volunteer efforts should be an initial red flag. Mm-hmm. The amount of volunteer efforts that are going to be needed are going to be well within the short term into the long term for a couple of years to come. So anybody that texts you or emails you, calls you, says you need to donate right now, it's probably a scam. Double check that and slow down.
Well, and another thing that I've been hearing a lot, we'll get a lot of calls, and people are so kind-hearted. They want to help. They know that these people lost everything. And we've gotten calls from people who are like, hey, I just cleaned out my closet. I got all this old stuff, but it's still in good shape. Where do I donate it?
And that's usually the kind of donation materials that we're actually going to try to not want to donate, because in reality, that's not the items that they're going to need right now. Oftentimes, those donations centers that are calling for these items will have a list of specific items they're going to need. Please try to only donate those things and make sure that they're new. We don't want any used products being donated.
Right, and as much as people want to give what they have, I would say what I've heard is that they need money.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's one of the easiest ways, especially in the short term. Because if you think about a lot of the homes that need to be rebuilt, Red Cross, Salvation Army, organizations like that are really only accepting monetary donations at this time because they're inundated with items that have already been donated. So monetary donations are going to be the way to go.
Great information, Roger. And we have more great information for you today throughout the show. Stick with us. We'll be right back.
Wish Education Foundation is a local nonprofit organization that serves nearly 22,000 students of the William S. Hart Union High School District. Headed by Executive Director Amy Daniels and a board of dedicated community members, Wish supports countless programs such as student wellness, arts and music, STEM, special education, and more. The foundation also hosts several popular community events, including Wine on the Roof, Cocktails on the Roof, and Cars Under the Stars. Other local events include the College Webinar Series and the SCV Music Festival. Wish funds programs that state funding alone cannot fully support, and all Wish fundraising stays in the Hart District, benefiting our students since 2012. The Wish Education Foundation is such an important part of Santa Clarita. If you are interested in learning more about their events, volunteering, or donating, please visit www.wisheducationfoundation.org.
Welcome back to SCVTV's Community Corner. Southern Californians are still feeling the effects of the devastating wildfires that swept through the parts of the greater Los Angeles area. Recovery can be a long and difficult process, but help is available.
That's right, Carrie. In times of crisis, the American Red Cross is always there, providing critical relief, financial assistance, and most importantly, reassurance that no one has to face this alone.
Joining us today to share updates on wildfire recovery resources is Angel Sauceda, Regional Communications Director for the American Red Cross Los Angeles region. Angel, thank you so much for being with us today.
Thank you for having me. I'm excited.
So you have literally been boots on the ground since the wildfires broke out. Can you paint a picture of what it's been like and how the families and the communities are coping?
It's been a really uplifting experience in this horrible disaster and devastating wildfire that everyone is experiencing, from breathing, from their homes being burned down. So the family's coping. We have been there from this day one, setting up the shelter as soon as possible. And then I know there were moves that had to happen based on availability and space and time. So we didn't want to have so many shelter transitions for the families. So with the families coping, they have been really amazing to partner with. We have been working around the clock to find resources for them to be able to have a comfortable time in our shelters, whether it's providing them with their vitamins, helping them get their government documents all but turned back over and together, because some people ran out and didn't even have their driver's license. So we're working with our community engagement partners too, to make sure that they're having everything that they need. So when the next step of the recovery process starts, that they can have, a easier transition, hopefully, in this time that they really need it.
Absolutely. And we've seen so many people step up, donating supplies, offering help, and supporting their neighbors. What's been the most inspiring part of this entire response for you?
Honestly, it's been the entire Los Angeles community. And actually, the whole state of the whole country has really been coming through. We have gotten outreach from so many different community partners who have wanted to donate food, wanting to donate clothes, brand new outfits, things like that. We've had different partners who are over there donating, food trucks and coffee trucks and things that, they don't have to do, and they are out here. They want to do it. We have people all over the world checking in on us to make sure that we're all okay. And it's inspiring to see the real heartwarming people who are really coming through and signing up to volunteer just randomly to come and hand out food or help someone get to the showers and things like that. So it's been every experience I've met, it's just been so inspiring to see people really stepping up for their community and their neighbors who they may not have known back then, and they really know now.
Yeah.
And that's the beautiful part of all this tragedy, is seeing how people come together afterwards. And we know that disaster relief goes beyond the immediate response. Where do you see the greatest need right now?
Right now, we really have a need for blood collection. We do have fixed, stable sites where people can donate blood, because they are unfortunately having to cancel blood drives. Not astronomical amounts of blood drives have had to be canceled, but we had to do some because of locations and impacted areas. So those have put a little bit of a dent. We would, A1C testing is starting to come about in the Red Cross blood donations, so you'll be able to get those in March. And then volunteers, everyone who signs up, we're able to have them sign up as a disaster event-based volunteer. They will get a shift, if they want it tomorrow, to try to sign up and really just be there for the community and at the shelters that people were, they need help. We still need help a little bit.
So Angel, just to build on that a little bit, what's the most vital thing people can do to make a lasting impact in the months ahead?
I would say the most that you can do is really keep checking in on each other. Check in on your neighbors, check in on the people, the folks that you know who are impacted. Make sure that you're rolling up that sleeve and checking your blood and donating a little bit. We have a new testing too for blood donation. So I know a lot of people were terrified of the finger prick. Now we have one that goes around the finger. It's rolling out across all the fixed sites. It's not available in every single one, but I'm sure if you call, they would tell you if it is available there, where you don't even have to have your finger pricked anymore. It just goes on your finger and it tells you all the vitals from that for the hemoglobin testing.
Oh, that's cool.
So that's something that would be really impactful. And, the real main thing is people being there for each other.
Yeah. So I wanted to ask, because I know in the immediate aftermath or I guess not the aftermath, while the emergency is happening, you guys come in and set up shelters. Are there still people, we're almost a month out from the Palisades and the Eaton Fire. Are there still people staying at Red Cross shelters?
There are. We still have the Westwood shelter and the Pasadena shelter open at this time. And, we are not closing those doors until it's needed.
And how long, do you have any idea how long that's going to be open until people, would you stay open until people are able to rebuild, or do you look for other places to house them, like hotels or temporary facilities?
We work with our community partners to make sure that there's a transition plan in place for every family that's been staying at our shelters, whether it be getting them financial assistance, helping them, making sure they have a location where they can go, things like that. So we have a very skilled team of shelter resident transition workers who will make a case for your shelter residents, and they hold their hands through every step of the way to make sure that they have a transition plan before the shelter closes.
Wow, that's incredible. So where's the best place for folks in the community to get more information about Red Cross or to learn about more ways that they can help?
I would say go to redcross.org/ Get Info or redcross.org/volunteer. Those are the two best sites to go to find everything.
And sign up to give blood now.
Yes, sign up to give blood. Yes, thank you.
Angel, thank you so much for being here, and thank you so much for what you're doing for people across the Southland right now.
Thank you as well for helping me get the message out there. Thank you.
Of course. Thank you. All right, stick with us. We'll be right back.
Are you an artist looking to get your work into the community and attract potential buyers? Are you a business owner in need of local original artwork to decorate your establishment? Well, the City of Santa Clarita is here to help. Through the city's Places with Spaces program, Santa Clarita businesses can be matched with a local artist to put their pieces on display. Here's how it works. First, fill out an interest form at santaclaritaarts.com. Artists will submit a digital portfolio along with information on their available work. Businesses will give information on their available space and the specific subject matter they would like to display. And we do the rest. The Santa Clarita Arts team takes applications from artists and businesses and plays matchmaker, helping create what can be a lasting relationship. For more information and to get started, visit santaclaritaarts.com.
Welcome back to SCVTV's Community Corner. When a disaster strikes, we often focus on the physical recovery, like rebuilding homes, restoring power, and getting life back to normal. But what we don't always talk about is the emotional recovery.
The mental impact of a disaster like the wildfires that swept through parts of greater Los Angeles area can be just as devastating as the physical damage. Adults and children alike are dealing with fear, grief, and uncertainty. So how do they start to heal? And how can those around them offer the right kind of support?
Here to help us understand the mental toll of the fires and what recovery really looks like is Nikki Buckstead, CEO of Child and Family Center. Thank you for joining us, Nikki.
Thank you so much. Glad to be back.
So many families have just gone through a devastating natural disaster, and some came so close to losing everything. What are some of the emotions both children and adults might be experiencing?
Yeah, great question. I mean, children and adults experience emotions differently, right? Children are still forming their prefrontal cortex, hard for me to say, so they don't often know how to identify their feelings or express their feelings or their emotions or really process what it is that they've seen and heard. And, you know, adults are obviously a little bit older, they've had experiences, but it's safe to say that everybody experiences stress, anxiety, fear, and it comes out differently in different ways for children and adults. But I would just say that, you know, if we're talking about a child, they can't necessarily express how it is that they're feeling because, you know, a 3-year-old doesn't necessarily know how to say I'm sad or what sad looks like or I'm frightened. Yeah. So it's really good that we're talking about this so that parents and caregivers and grandparents and friends and family can really have a better understanding of what the mental health challenges can look like after a natural disaster.
It's so interesting that you say that because you would think that children and adults go through things the same way, but you're right. How do you get it out of them? Like, what are some words or something that maybe you should look for from your child that maybe they're struggling with this?
Yeah, great question. I think if you start to see things like a child becoming very clingy and not wanting to separate from their parents, right, because they're scared of what might happen. If you start to see things like their sleep patterns change, their eating patterns change, maybe they revert back to sucking their thumb or grabbing their favorite teddy bear.
A comfort
which
something.
I think even adults might do too, right? That's how you can tell, okay, you know, maybe my child is struggling, night terrors, wanting to sleep in the bed with mom and dad, those types of things. So I think that's when you can identify, okay, my child is feeling some fear and scared and needs to be comforted and reassured that they're in a safe place now.
In times like these, kids look to their parents for comfort and stability. What can parents do to help their children process what's happened and regain that sense of safety?
Yeah, some of that is just what I had mentioned. I think one of the things is to, you know, the research shows that if you talk to your kids about a natural disaster or some traumatic event, the healing process actually starts happening sooner. So we don't want to avoid it or pretend like it didn't happen, but use age-appropriate language when you're talking to kids, be younger children, be more generic and don't get in depth. And I think with the older teens, they want to know more. They want to understand what happened happen. And so delving into those conversations a little bit more. Routine is key. Getting back to a routine is something that can really help stabilize a child or an adult and help them start feeling like, okay, something's a little bit more normal. I don't have to be so scared or so fearful. Talking to friends, relatives, people that you trust and support that can be there for you during those times. It's definitely not something that we need to do in a vacuum or alone. Absolutely. I think, whether you were in Altadena or whether you were in, right here in Santa Clarita, watching it on TV was terrifying. Mm-hmm. So people can experience the trauma even though they didn't actually have a home burned down or a school or a business just by watching it on TV.
And I wanted to ask you that because I have the news on all the time, like even just in the background.
Yeah.
Would you recommend that for parents? Is it maybe too much? Too much, yeah, absolutely. I think anytime there's any big traumatic event on TV, we want to make sure that our kids aren't overexposed or ourselves. Mm-hmm. There is the fatigue of watching a traumatic event for an extended period of time, and that can really start taking a toll. And so if it's taking a toll on an adult, you can imagine if it's playing on the background all of the time for a kid, even though we think they're playing or they're not paying attention, they're still picking up. They're still seeing the images on TV. Same with scrolling on your phone, right? So if you have a teenager that has access, really talking to them about limiting seeing those images because, that can create a lot of anxiety.
So dealing with the stress of a disaster can be overwhelming for parents and other adults. How can they manage their emotions without letting them interfere with daily life?
Yeah, I think that's a really important question. Sometimes we don't know because maybe it's been a long, ongoing traumatic event like the fires, and we get out of a routine and we kind of get out of ourselves, right? And so finding those things that, again, kind of getting back into a routine. So if maybe you were displaced with your child and you're staying with some friends, trying to make sure that you eat dinner at the same time every night, reading the book to your child, their favorite book, whatever it is, doing their homework at the same time helps you build in your own rituals, but also helps with children as well. So I think adults have to be really careful to, not stay numb to an event and not push it away or pretend like they have to be strong. Again, these are traumatic events for people. And so, again, reaching out to trusted loved ones, making sure that you're getting enough sleep, that you're eating right, that you're getting some exercise, finding those things that used to bring you joy or hobbies that you had. Yeah. So if you were into gardening or baking, working out, trying to get back into a routine and finding those small times of joy throughout the day is really going to help people heal through such a disaster like this. Yeah.
So for those who witnessed the fires unfold but didn't lose their homes, it still can be an overwhelming thing to process what they saw while also wanting to help those who lost everything. What role can they play in supporting survivors, and how can they navigate conversations about the trauma in a way that is sensitive and helpful? Because I feel like everyone knows someone who was affected.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say one of the things is we saw people spring into action right away, and I think that that's pretty common. People want to help when they feel helpless, right? So we saw those images on the TV, and many in our community decided, hey, we're going to do a donation drive. Child and Family Center did one. It was fantastic. We had so many people from the community show up, and we worked with another organization right in LA who could distribute easily, and they, baby to baby, and they are, one of LA County's, they were identified as one of LA County's distributors for needs like this during this last disaster that we had. So I think involving yourself in any way that you can that makes you feel good, but there's no right or wrong way to do it, right? This is going to be people are still displaced. People are still without homes. So while there was an initial rush to go ahead and help, there's still that ongoing need, and people need diapers, they need gas cards to get to work, they need everything if they've lost their home or a business. So, and I think being sensitive to understanding, sometimes there's what's called survivor's guilt, right? And so maybe, and you see this, it's like, 5 homes burned down and 1 doesn't. And you hear the person that lives there like, I don't know how it happened and I can't believe it. So, be there for your friends, be there for your family, offer them support and help. And, we don't always have to know the answers. And I think we can get caught up in, I don't know what to say, so then I don't do anything.
Yeah.
And I think the worst thing is to just not do anything when your heart is telling you, oh my gosh, I really want to help. Right. So be a helper, as Mr. Rogers used to say.
Yeah. And kind of to get more specific on that topic, if anyone does need extra support, what resources are available locally or elsewhere?
Great question. I have some wonderful resources here that are both local, state, and national. So, of course, you can call the Child and Family Center at 661-259-9439 or childfamilycenter.org. There's also the Immediate Crisis Support Disaster Distress Helpline. Really long. It's a 24/7 multilingual crisis counseling center for emotional distress related to natural or human caused disasters. You can call or text. It's 1-800-985-5990. There's also the 988 Lifeline. This is a 24/7 confidential support for mental health crises, folks that might be experiencing thoughts of suicide or substance use issues. It's also in English and in Spanish 24/7, and you can just call 988. I thought this was a great resource too. It's called the Friendship Line California. Again, it's 24/7. It's support for Californians age 60 and over to connect with someone to provide an emotional support.
I love that.
Yeah, and listening ear. We don't want to forget about our seniors.
Right.
That's
Absolutely.
really important. And you can call them at 888-670-1360. There's also it's called Emotional Support Services through Cal Hope. It's peer counseling for stress, anxiety. Those are some of the great resources, and we really encourage people to reach out, especially if you feel like this is impacting your daily life. You can't get out of bed, you feel sad, you can see it impacting your children. Reach out to your doctor, call a mental health professional, use any of those resources that we just named, and know that Child and Family Center is also here from our community as well.
Such important information. Nikki, thank you for being here, and thank you for what you do for our community.
Thank you. Thank you.
Stick with us. We'll be right back.
The William S. Hart Union High School District is an exemplary district located in Santa Clarita, California, a community nestled in North Los Angeles County. The Hart District, rated as one of the top secondary districts in the state of California, strives to make a difference in the lives of our diverse student body by instilling a sense of community, courage, creativity, and caring. We do this by working together to offer high-performing academic programs, championship athletic teams, award-winning performing arts, and a robust career and technical education program. For our teachers and staff, we offer competitive salaries, a great benefits package, and a chance to work with our amazing students. Being in Santa Clarita offers the opportunity to be just minutes from it all. The beach, mountains, desert, close to the excitement of Los Angeles, all while living in a beautiful and safe community. So we invite you to meet with us and think about joining the William S. Hart District family, where we believe in one heart, every student, opportunity ready.
Welcome back to SCVTV's Community Corner. The City of Santa Clarita's Office of Emergency Management has one mission: to save lives during emergencies.
The recent wildfires that scorched parts of Southern California, including the Hughes Fire in Castaic, serve as powerful reminders that we can never be too prepared.
And fortunately for us, Roger Wilcox is this week's guest and co-host, and he's also the city's emergency operation analyst. Roger, there's a lot to discuss. Thank you for being here to share all of your knowledge.
Thank you for having me. I'm very excited.
So first of all, let's remind everyone what Santa Clarita's emergency management team does and how it benefits our community.
Absolutely, and you touched on it briefly. Ultimately, the city's emergency management team, their goal is to protect lives and properties in the city of Santa Clarita from man-made and natural disasters. So we do that in partnership with different local, county, state, and federal emergency services, utility companies, as well as school districts to prepare for and respond to any one of those emergencies that can affect Santa Clarita.
And I think the most important thing that the Los Angeles County Fire Department boils down really well is being familiar with Ready, Set, Go.
Absolutely.
Tell us what Ready, Set, Go is.
Ready, Set, Go is a fantastic program that is created by LA County Fire Department. It is a three-phased approach to how you should prepare for and then respond to an evacuation warning and then ultimately an order. So the first phase, which is the ready phase, is everything that you would need to do prior to a wildfire even occurring. So the first thing you're going to want to do is get all your family members together, create that plan, where you're going to go, what supplies are you going to need, and who can you contact that is outside the affected area, right? You're also going to do the home hardening and the defensible space around your property to make sure that embers and other factors can't reach your household. The next phase, phase 2, which is the set, is when there actually is a wildfire going on, but it doesn't directly threaten your property. Right, so this is that time when you're going to gather all the supplies that you've had, whether it's your emergency kits, your family plans, your pets, please don't forget your pets, and you're going to start packing your vehicle, right? And one of the other things that we recommend is when you do that, please back into your driveway so you can pull out quickly if necessary. Right? And then ultimately that last phase, the go phase, is whether it's your decision to go or it's an emergency services decision to go, is you leaving your property. And ultimately, you're going to be exiting the area, hopefully connecting with either an out-of-area contact who isn't affected by the fire, or heading to one of the shelters that may be available in partnership with different agencies.
So one of the most important parts of all of this, and the part that I like the most, of course, because it's communications, is making sure that people know what emergency apps are available and where can people go to get that crucial information in the event of a wildfire.
Absolutely. And specific to Santa Clarita, we have a couple of different avenues. The first and foremost is the Santa Clarita Emergency Blog. That has almost become our one-stop shop for just about any piece of information, whether it's general information pertaining to the fire itself, current road closures, evacuation notices, as well as information on active shelters, and then in some instances, especially as it pertains to the Hughes fire, donation resources for various fires. So that's going to be the first place that we recommend all residents visit. You can visit that by visiting santaclaritaemergency.com, and that is going to be active during active emergencies. Right. So the next thing that we would strongly encourage is similar to that vein is city social media accounts. So following the City of Santa Clarita on X, formerly Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and Nextdoor is going to be the avenues in which we are going to promote the same exact information. It's going to be relevant to all residents, and all of the information posted on both the emergency blog and our social media pages are from verified sources. It's either the incident command post or partnering agencies in this response.
So the next one you're going to talk about, and I know that this was one of the things that gave me a lot of heartache during the Palisades and the Eaton Fire, was that people got those text alerts saying evacuate now. Where did those come from, and what is Genesis Protect?
And that's exactly what it is. So Genesis Protect is actually a mapping evacuation software, which is operated by LA County Office of Emergency Management, and it actually requires somebody from the incident command post to notify a staff member from LA County OEM to essentially flip that switch. And in the instance where everybody got the alert that says you're in evacuation area, please leave now, that was an error on their part where they accidentally sent that to all 10 million residents of the county. So in all reality, Genesis Protect is actually a more specific mapping software that is actually going to be based on your location. So there's different zones that are created in almost every city in LA County, but for sure here at Santa Clarita, where if you are in a zone that is under a warning or an order, you will be notified, and then you can also register for specific zones. Whether you live there or you have kids that may go to a school in a specific zone, you can sign up for updates related to those zones specifically.
And I got to give you a shout out here, because when we first launched Genesis Protect with the Los Angeles County Fire Department, and you'll notice this if you were paying attention to Genesis during the fires, that a lot of the zones have numbers. And Roger went through with LA County Fire, with our mapping people, and they gave them names that made sense. So if you, give us some examples of the names. That
so some that were actually evacuated for the Hughes fire were Tesoro Adobe. We'll have common areas, Valencia, we'll have Saugus portions where they might be split, but common names that you're actually gonna have, or that residents are gonna recognize, versus Zone 1, 2, 3.
Because if I saw Zone 1, 2, 3, I'd be like, I have no idea what that is. But if I see Zone Circle J, I'm like, oh, okay, now I know that I need to go. So thank you for doing that.
Absolutely.
Something that has been getting so much buzz is watch duty. What is watch duty?
So watch duty is a fantastic app, but I do have to preface this by saying it is actually a 501c3. It is a nonprofit organization that is primarily operated by volunteers. Really what it is, it's an additional mapping software. It's really good for visual components. However, all the updates provided are literally just volunteers who will listen to radio channels and provide these updates in real time. So any any users that want to use the Watch Duty app, please be aware that it is not an official source for emergency information. It is something that we would never push out just because we saw it on the Watch Duty app, but it is really good for mapping softwares.
And I know that's something that the LA County officials have had a hard time with, because a lot of times when they're having conversations on the scanners, they're talking about what they might do.
Correct.
Or what could be happening. They're not saying that that's what happened. Those are like those working conversations. So you can't take them verbatim, and that's why we always make sure when we push information out on Santa Clarita Emergency that that's verified from whoever is at Incident Command.
Absolutely, because you're right. They're just brainstorming in the field. Ultimately, the Incident Command Post will relay that information directly to us, and then we will push that to our various applications.
Let's talk a little bit more about evacuations, because I know that was an issue with the Palisades, pretty much with any fire that you have. Why is it so important when you get the evacuation order to go?
Yeah, well, first and foremost, there's several stages. It may even start as a warning, right? Which, if we go back to the Ready, Set, Go program, that is your time to start prepping, right? So even if you are in an evacuation warning, always recommend prepping your vehicle to be ready to evacuate, but then when it does get to that order, you need to leave. And ultimately, when it does get to that, whether you still have cell phone reception or not, Los Angeles County Sheriff's Department is actually the agency responsible for enforcing that mandatory evacuation. If they have to, they will go door to door to make sure that residents leave the affected area. And oftentimes, that might come quicker than what's expected or what might be preferable, which is why you always need to be prepared on the forefront. And if it does go from a normal zone status to what is ultimately just a warning, it might be, we strongly encourage, you might want to leave at that point too, right? And that might help with some other factors, including gridlock, traffic, and some things like that.
Well, and for the firefighters that are on the front line, their main goal is to protect lives and property.
Yep.
If they're worried about lives when they should just be worried about property, then that adds a whole nother level to what they're doing. And you mentioned the gridlock too. Like, talk about what it's like for them trying to get in there when everyone else is trying to get out. Yeah,
well, and I think we saw a lot of clips of that, especially in the Palisades fire, where people had to abandon vehicles and things like that. Well, unfortunately, I think the factors surrounding that fire and how quickly it moved kind of contributed to that. Fortunately for us, especially here in Santa Clarita, but really that's the goal of LA County Fire Department, is to enforce any evacuation orders or warnings as soon as possible to make sure that we can alleviate some of that gridlock. Right? We're not going to do it just because we want to inconvenience you. We're doing it because we're ultimately trying to save lives, right? And at that point, when it gets to that stage where they think this area could be affected, please take that for what it is. It is a warning, and start to prepare and then evacuate if necessary.
There really is a year-round fire season now in Santa Clarita. With the winds, with the different factors that contribute. And I didn't know this, but apparently you can have Roger come to your HOA meeting and teach you things about what we're talking about here in emergency preparedness. Why would you recommend that it's important that people do that? Well, and how can they get in touch with you?
Yeah, great question. Obviously, it's really important to be prepared year-round, obviously for wildfires, but really for any disaster that can strike here in Santa Clarita. And it's never too early to start, and if you do start during the emergency, you're going to forget items, it's going to be unnecessarily stressful, and all these other things. So please reach out ahead of time. Not only is outreach critical in the city's emergency management division, it's something that we put a priority on, but it's one of my favorite things to do. So I've often been asked to attend HOA meetings, school board meetings, or other meetings like that to provide general emergency preparedness information, wildfire specific information, or anything else that you would request. So ultimately, you can reach out to the city directly. They will put you in contact with me, and we just set up a time that works best for them, and we'll talk about whatever you want.
Perfect. And if people want more information on anything and everything that you talked about today, where should they go?
That's going to be the city's emergency management website. So that's going to be found at santaclarita.gov/emergency.
Great information, Roger. And you're not leaving. You're going to stick around with us for the rest of the show. So stay with us, and there's much more to come.
Welcome back to SCVTV's Community Corner. The Los Angeles County Animal Care and Control, or DACC, promotes public safety and animal care through programs that include sheltering, pet placement, education, and animal law enforcement.
Through its nonprofit, the LA County Animal Care Foundation, the agency was able to safely transfer and evacuate hundreds of pets and animals during the recent wildfires.
Joining us today to tell us how the agency successfully evacuated hundreds of animals and to give you tips on how to keep your pets safe during emergency situations is Director of Los Angeles County Animal Care and Control, Marcia Maeda. Marcia, thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for having me.
Marcia, the recent evacuations were a massive effort. This was an unprecedented emergency, but the DACC did an incredible job rescuing and sheltering displaced animals. Can you walk us through the department's role in recent fires?
Sure. We were busy from the very beginning. We knew that there was a red flag warning, a particularly dangerous situation was declared, and we always prepare by making sure our trucks are fueled, our trailers are hooked up, and that all of our staff are on ready status. So first the Palisades fire started, and that affects unincorporated areas of Topanga and other unincorporated areas there. And then shortly after, the Eaton Fire started, and that affected mostly Altadena, which is an unincorporated area. Mm-hmm. So we were very busy with both of those. We immediately opened our large animal shelter at Pierce College, mm-hmm. And we were accepting animals at our Agora Animal Care Center. A lot of people had to evacuate and brought animals to us. Pierce College filled fairly quickly. Then we opened the Antelope Valley Fairgrounds, which is another large animal sheltering site. We also can take large animals at our Castaic Animal Care Center. Mm-hmm. So some people were bringing animals to Castaic. And then we just continued to work collaboratively with other organizations. We work closely with Pasadena Humane and the Altadena Fire, and they were taking the animals into their shelter for the most part, but we were doing the field work out there, going into the evacuated areas and rescuing animals that we knew had been left behind. So we were doing that for them. And it was just really heartwarming to work with so many committed, dedicated, compassionate people who wanted to help us, help the animals.
Mm-hmm. Can you give us an idea of the magnitude, like how many animals were evacuated, how many volunteers, adoption partners, animal welfare agencies that all stepped in to help?
You know, it's a huge number, because I have to say, first of all, when the fires were going, we were getting calls from animal agencies up and down California, Arizona, other states saying, we will take your adoptable animals so we can take them out of your care centers so then you'll have room for the evacuated pets. And that was so important because we had to evacuate our Castaic Animal Care Center with the Hearst fire, mm-hmm. which came along later. And we had about, I think, 42 dogs, a cat, some horses and pigs. And all the dogs and cats went to Lancaster, and we had a full kennel building that was empty because of all these other adoptions that had taken place in the couple weeks before that. Yeah. So these animals had, you know, they were kept together. We had enough room for them. The large animals went to Pierce College, but you know, it was really seamless. And the support from everybody, the donors to our Animal Care Foundation were incredible. We have our Noah's Legacy Fund, which supports the department's animal rescue efforts. And this is going to be really important for the long haul because so many people have been displaced. And we've been able to reunite about 85% of the animals with their owners. Wow. But the other 15%, the owners don't have a place to take them. They've lost their homes or their barn burned down. So we're going to be caring for those animals for a while until they can get on their feet. And we're not charging for that. These people have suffered enough already. It's just important that their beloved animals are safe and being well cared for until they can be reunited. So yeah, all that, the animal shelters up and down the state that wanted to help us, donors. World Central Kitchen was bringing food to all of our staff and volunteers at all of the animal sheltering sites. We put in about 4,000 staff hours and 1,000 volunteer hours, and our volunteers are amazing. You know, they didn't just help at the animal shelters, they worked at Pierce College, and we have a really great team of dedicated volunteers for horse evacuations, our equine response team, and they know how to particularly care for horses. And horses, when they're evacuated, they can be very stressed out, they can colic, they can get injured, so it's really important that we have people trained to handle them.
And Marcia, real quick, if we could go back to the Noah's Legacy Care Foundation, can you provide some more details about what that operation looked like year-round or outside of normal emergency situations?
Thank you for asking. The Los Angeles County Animal Care Foundation supports so many community programs to keep pets and families together. They, if people are experiencing difficulty with either medical bill or training or housing or something like that, they can call us. We can provide advice. There are vouchers to assist with medical problems. There's low-cost spay-neuter options available. They pay for our Vet at the Park program, where we give free vaccines and free microchips and free pet food. But throughout the year, they really support the animals at the animal care centers. We have our Dreams Come True Fund, which pays for extra medical care. For example, if an animal's been hit by a car and they need an orthopedic surgery, although we have wonderful vets and very good surgeons at the animal care centers, they're often so busy working on the animals that we already have, doing spays and neuters and other treatments. And sometimes they don't have the specialized equipment for an advanced orthopedic surgery. So Dreams Come True pays up to $2,500 to a private veterinarian to perform that service. And that saves their lives, because otherwise these injuries are so bad they'd have to be put to sleep. But Dreams Come True saves that. They also have a Grooming Gives Hope program, which I think is wonderful. It's one of my favorites, because we get these animals in that are dogs, usually just horribly matted and very painful. And sometimes there's really serious underlying medical problems with them. And they're, of course, very unadoptable. I mean, they're stinky, and they don't feel good, so they're not really showing off their personality. Right. But with Grooming Gives Hope, the foundation pays for professional groomers, and right now we're working with a grooming school to train people to do this, where the dogs get their complete spa day, where they're groomed and they're bathed. Many times it's a shave down, but they feel so much better after it's happened. Their personality, it's like you wouldn't even believe it, and they're jumping around and dancing at the cage. And somebody just spent 2 hours giving them TLC, plus they're not in pain anymore. And sometimes we find underlying medical problems, so now we can get our veterinarians to treat that. So that's really important too. The foundation pays for our foster program, because we get these little kittens that come in without a mother, and they can't survive on their own. So the foundation pays for milk replacement, bottles, heating pads, everything they need, and then volunteers, and we're always looking for more volunteers to do this. It's not a long-term commitment. It's just a few weeks, to raise up those kittens and then bring them back, and we can find homes for them once they're old enough, but they're too young at that point to be placed for adoption. And they have paid for things like our dog play yards, so the dogs can get out and play, and our behavior and enrichment team can work with them and get a good understanding of their personality. So who can we best place this animal with? What's the best home for them? They've paid for special medicine when we've had disease outbreaks. They've paid for training for some staff. They help support our volunteer program. So they help in many, many different ways. They're wonderful.
People in Santa Clarita just love their pets. I know I am one of them. I have 3 dogs that I've adopted. But these recent fires made me realize I don't know what I'm going to do with all 3 dogs should we have to evacuate. What advice do you have for people to prepare their pets for emergencies?
Right. Well, that's a great question. And the first answer is have a plan. So if you have a plan, you'll know what to do. So if you can't take them all with you, do you have friends or family or people that you could leave 1 or 2 with? Some don't get along with other animals or may have medical problems, something to plan for. Make sure every pet is microchipped and that you stay up to date on your microchip registration. A lot of times when people move, they don't update it because it's not at the front of their mind. It's invisible. So, you can see the tag, but they just don't think about their microchip. That needs to stay up to date. Have a go bag for your pet with at least 3 days worth of food. The list of medications they take, copies of their rabies certificate, their license, any other vaccinations they've had, a list of their medications in case they have seizure medicine or heartworm or anything else. So, you'll remember, and if you need to go get refills, you know what it is that you need to ask for. So I think that's the most important things. Have a toy in there with them. They'll be stressed out. A toy, a little blanket, extra collar and leash to make sure that they stay with you, or a carrier for the cat.
So the county and the foundation have had an incredibly busy January. But what has inspired you the most about seeing a community come together to keep all the animals who most consider family safe?
You know, I think what's been so inspiring is just the public outpouring of love and support that they have shown every of our care centers. Just showing up, how can I help? How can I volunteer? What do you need from me? We had a lot of food donations at our Agora Care Center because that's where a lot of people were evacuated. We have a lot of evacuated pets there. People showing up to volunteer, we just said, why don't you help us organize this? Because it was just, a lot. And that way the people in need can come and they can find, oh, my kitten food is here, the cat litter is there, the dog bowls are over here. And it's just one less thing that they have to try to stress about and think about. So, everybody's just been so supportive, and it's just heartwarming to know that the community really gets behind us in situations like this.
So if people want to donate money or donate supplies, where can they go, or is there a website for them to take a look at?
There is. It's just lacountyanimal's.org, and you can donate online. We also ask that people consider the foundation in their will or any investment accounts or anything like that, even if they're not prepared to donate now in the future. In those last couple of years, we had some very generous bequests left to the foundation, and that allowed us to do these Pets Are Family programs and Grooming Gives Hope and fix up some of the play yards. So the money really goes to a long list of opportunities for the animals.
So Marcia, today you've shared some really great resources, but are there any other resources that you would like people to be aware of?
Sure. On Amazon, each of our animal care centers and our disaster response unit have wish lists. So if people would like to buy something for the animal shelters or our disaster response team, they can go to Amazon and do that.
Wow.
So, Marcia, I have something for you before you go. I don't know if you know, but in Santa Clarita, we have a mascot. This is Sammy Clarita, and he goes around and supports different campaigns. And what Sammy is really excited about right now is encouraging people to adopt pets.
Oh, thank you so much.
So this is Sammy, and in his book, he has a book, Sammy Stories. I have to show you this because one of the places he goes when looking for an animal is the Castaic Animal Care Center. So I want you to have that.
Thank you.
And then also, this is Biscuit. This is who Sammy ends up adopting. So now you have the book and the Sammy and the Biscuit.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. That's so much fun, and the kids love it. And it's a great way to talk about getting people excited about adopting animals.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Of course, and thank you so much for being here and sharing this important information.
It's my pleasure.
All right, stick with us. We'll be right back. Welcome back to SCVTV's Community Corner. The Hughes Fire burned over 10,000 acres, coming dangerously close to homes and facilities, including the Castaic Animal Care Center. While no structures were lost, the center had to act quickly to evacuate its animals to safety.
Thankfully, every animal made it out safely, and they're now back at the center. But for many of them, their journey isn't over yet. They're still searching for their forever homes.
Our team went to the center and met some of the animals looking for a forever family and heard from one of the volunteers who helped with the evacuations. Let's take a look.
Hey there, Santa Clarita. My name is Elizabeth Medina, and I'm standing just outside of the kennels, the Castaic Animal Care Center, where they're housing all of their dogs who are looking for a forever family. And it's a rainy day today, a little cloudy, but it's business as usual, which is a stark difference from a few days ago when the Hughes Fire came right on the ridge and forced this entire place to be evacuated. Volunteers, county staff, and everyone here in the facility had to get all of their dogs and animals safe and out of the area. And now they're all back and they're looking for their forever families. So we're gonna head inside, catch up with volunteer Paul Martinson, and hear what the evacuation process was like for him as a volunteer, and get to meet some of the animals who are ready to go home with you out there.
This fire continues to grow. We're about to leave the shelter. I came in my normal shift, just gonna walk dogs and socialize. And I got in a little before 10, and then all of a sudden one of the employees, Allison, looks and says, look, there's some smoke. And in the hillside, you could see a smoke plume coming up. I got on the radio and I told the office that there's smoke and there's fire north of us. And I guess Paul, who's the shelter manager, got online and started making phone calls, and the fire went from a very small fire to a fairly large one very quickly. All of a sudden the phones went off, and it was the alert that said, okay, you're under an evacuation warning here in Castaic. And so that was a concern, and they started getting ready to evacuate the shelter, getting all the trucks ready. Then the phones went off again, and it was only about 15 minutes, and it went from an evacuation warning to you're evacuating. Got all the animals into the vans, the horses, the pigs, the chicken. There was a chicken here. And they all went up to Lancaster. The livestock went down to Pierce College. Scary, and especially it was a week after the Palisades and the Hertz fire and the fire in Altadena, and you saw all the devastation that had happened there. And so it was definitely scary, like, is this gonna happen up here? Are we gonna have that same type of scenario where this firestorm is just gonna come through the Castaic area and then work its way down through Santa Clarita? And is that gonna happen here? And vivid pictures of seeing it in the news and mentally projecting that here, yes, I was worried. Taking them out and putting them in trucks in these kennels, and some of them in the larger crates again to put them on the horse trailers. That is stressful for a dog and stressful for an animal. And then, like I said, they took them here up to Lancaster, which probably took a little bit over an hour to get there. And then up there, then they have to decompress again because now this is a new environment for them. So as volunteers, we actually, quite a few of us, drove up to Lancaster in the ensuing days to take the Castaic dogs out, the ones that we were familiar with, and so that they would feel less of a stress and more of, okay, this is my routine, is, you know, somebody comes who I know, takes me out of the kennel, takes me into a play yard and socializes with me and gives me treats.
We have Gerard here. Please tell us a little bit about him. Who is he? What kind of dog? Give us the whole rundown of who this fur baby is.
Well, Gerard's we feel he's about a 3-year-old pit mix. As you can see, he's very friendly. He's very gentle when he takes treats. He loves people. Once he gets to know them, he's a little bit shy at first, but once he gets to know them, he loves people. And he's just a wonderful dog. Come meet him. Come visit him. You can sign a waiver and come out and actually meet and greet him like we are doing right here. He's about 60 pounds. He's very solid. He also has to be an only dog. He's not real great with other dogs, so he really does need to be an only dog. But he's loving, he's gentle, and he would love a forever home.
She is so sweet. Tell us about Milani. This is Milani. I'm looking at her now. I don't know if the camera is catching the color of her fur, but she is this beautiful dark chocolate brown with like honey tones. She's the sweetest. Tell us about Milani.
Milani's a couple years old. She's a pitty mix. She knows sit and she knows shake. She's very gentle, but Milani sometimes gets dog reactive, so Milani has to be an only dog. You can't have another dog in the house for Milani. She's very sweet, she's very gentle. She wants to sit next to you and sometimes on top of you. She loves to give you kisses. She nuzzles into you if she jumps up on the bench and sits next to you. She walks great on the leash. She really is just a wonderful, wonderful dog. But like I said, when they tested her, she gets a little bit dog reactive. So she is an only dog. She was a mother a couple of months ago. Her pups were adopted out of the shelter, but she's still here, unfortunately. She came in as a stray.
That's always a tough one to think about because the puppies are always the first to go and the moms usually stay a little longer. For those out there who are thinking about adopting a dog, why do you think it's so important to consider, these new mothers that are probably going to be here like Milani for a longer time than their babies?
Well, in our shelter here in Castaic, any small dog, and by small dog 20 pounds or less, and puppies just get adopted instantly. They really do. They fly out the door. We have a lot of the larger dogs. Now, Milani's a medium-sized dog. She's not overweight. She's probably could put on a few pounds around her hindquarters, but she's very sweet. She was a mother, yes, and it's adopting somebody who had puppies. She definitely has maternal instincts, and she loves people. She's very gentle. She's very easy to get along with, and she just wants you to be her forever person. This is Gustavo. He's a Rhodesian Ridgeback, and that you can see that going down the back of his spine, the fur stands up, and that's how they got the name. He is a very athletic dog. He's very attentive. He's very aware of his surroundings. But Gustavo came in as a stray, and he's very wary of people. It takes a little while for him to warm up. So anybody who's thinking of adopting Gustavo, first of all, you'll get a love of a dog. The second, you're going to have to take some time and let him get to know you and know that you're safe. Come here.
Gustavo. So what kind of home are you hoping that he ends up in? I mean, he's a beautiful dog, and he's, I would say, medium-sized, right?
He's medium-sized, and he can go anywhere. It is no male dogs. It's female dogs only. When he did his evaluation, he got a little bit aggressive with some of the males. And that's just establishing territory, but he is a very sweet dog, as you can see. He loves attention and loves affection.
He's looking for treats.
And he loves treats. He's very treat motivated. And you can see he's very gentle. He's not even pulling on my fingers. He's just pulling on the treat. And he's taking treats from a stranger. So you can see that he has been socialized. He's, again, a very, very loving dog, but you have to get used to him, and he has to get used to you. When I first met Gustavo, he wanted nothing to do with me, which is understandable. That happens a lot at the shelter, and that's when I talked earlier about the rule of threes. We just have to give him time to decompress and understand that the people that are handing him treats and taking care of him are not there to harm him.
Yeah, absolutely. And I mean, so I want to go back to what you just said. They go through a little evaluation test, right?
Yeah.
What does that mean? And, how do you determine if a dog is ready to go and all of that?
Well, the behavior evaluation team, which is a county team, comes in. We get Tuesday afternoons, and they'll bring a couple of dogs into this enclosure, and they'll look at them and say, how do they get along with each other? How do they get along with the people that are in the enclosure? They'll look with female dogs, male dogs, and they keep an eye on them, and they take copious notes on the dogs. So make sure that, again, that we're not looking at an overly aggressive dog. That's not somebody that we want to adopt out to the general public. They go to rescues. But Gustavo was in here, and again, a little bit of an issue with some of the males. But wonderful dog, very, very loving. If I was to sit on the ground, he would come over and just nuzzle up next to me and lay down and want his belly rubbed. But I do take Gustavo out almost every day.
Thank you so much for joining us today. Make sure to tune in next week and every week for another episode of SCVTV's Community Corner.
Check out all of our past episodes and segments at scvcommunitycorner.com or our Facebook at SCV Community Corner.
Thank you so much for watching.
We'll see you next time.
At SCVTV, we believe in the power of television to inspire, educate, and unite our community. But we can't do it alone. Donate today, and together we can continue to create meaningful content and provide next-generation workforce opportunities.